Have y'all heard about how the Trump White House wants to cut NASA's science budget by 50%? Literally cut it in half. And now, for the very first time, the former head of NASA's Science Mission Directorate is speaking out about what these unprecedented cuts would mean to the part of the agency that he used to run. I'm Kristin Fisher, independent space journalist, CNN contributor, former Fox News White House correspondent, and the daughter of 2 NASA astronauts. And on this episode of The Endless Void, I'm talking to Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen, Dr. Z, as most people call him. This is a man who was responsible for overseeing some of NASA's most audacious missions across 3 presidential administrations: Obama, Trump, and Biden. He oversaw the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope, the Parker Solar Probe, the Perseverance rover landing on Mars, and the world's first planetary defense test, slamming a spacecraft into an asteroid and successfully altering its orbit. Dr. Z, I know it's been a really tough few days, but it's so good to see you.
Oh, good to be with you. Hi.
I've thought about you a lot over the last few days when the skinny budget came out from the White House and then the full budget finally on Friday. What did you think when you finally saw those numbers in black and white?
When I saw the budget come out, of course, I immediately recognized it's a historically terrible budget for science. And I think my first reaction was just deep sadness. Sadness just because I feel that science is one of the utmost unproductive activities that humans can do. It focuses on really asking big questions that are deeply human. Every child asks it about. Starting why the sky is blue to, what are these stars? How far away are they? All these questions. So the fact that there are people who just basically think we can gut that in a fashion that is dramatic at the level that we've never seen, frankly, at NASA. I mean, for me, that just makes me sad and just deeply concerned.
Does it make you angry seeing what's happening?
Of course, the faces of mourning are all over. Remember, it's hard for me to be unbiased. I grew up kind of in the mountains of Switzerland. Still, my accent is from there. And I fell in love with science. I dedicated my life to the pursuit of exploration and science. I built space instruments that are flying on some of these spacecraft. I managed some of these missions. I helped select them. And each one of these missions, of course, it's not just electronics and hardware. It's a team of several hundred to several thousand people who put their heart and soul into it. And if I think about these, of course, you get angry if your friends get hurt.
When you really dig into the numbers here, you're looking at an almost 50% cut for NASA's Science Mission Directorate, cutting the budget in half.
For some of the domains, it's going out of business. I mean, I would say it will take decades to bounce back. It's ceding leadership in an arena where we've been leaders since the beginning of the space age, and it's deliberately so. It's basically, hand grenade on the table, on the kitchen table, and everybody duck. It's a careless act, perhaps driven by the right, by a desire to help the United States, but certainly not in a way that actually helps the United States.
I mean, do you think the Trump administration is trying to put NASA's Science Mission Directorate out of business?
I really don't know. I think what it is motivated in a care, which I also have, growing up poor, which is a care that we should not just always increase taxpayers' money. We should have the courage to cut here and there, and we should do that. I mean, there's a number of places where I could identify waste. We can and should do a better job than what we have. I just really want to make sure that we talk about something important, and that is that I have absolutely no problem when missions that are past their useful lives are being cut. My opinion is that there's a number of the missions that are being cut are past their useful life. Let me just give one example. In heliophysics, there's the spacecraft called WIND. I built part of that sensor when I was a master's student. I have absolutely no problem that this mission basically gets cut. I'm also have zero problem if you go after missions that have horrible performance. When I was a head of science, I canceled multiple missions. I believe we should deal with taxpayers' money in a really responsible fashion. So when, for example, certain missions just are factors of 2 or 3 above what we thought they will cost because of whatever reason, we should take a hard look and cut them. The problem here, however, is that, we're pouring the baby out with the bathwater, right? I think the worst of the domains is in many ways astrophysics, which has been the place of the biggest stories in the last 2, 3 years. Of course, mainly because of the James Webb Space Telescope and its amazing successes, which thankfully is being maintained in the budget. But it's also because of the Roman Space Telescope, which it's partly funded. It's actually the first in 2 decades or so, the first strategic scale mission. So it's above 2 billion. That is below cost and ahead of schedule. Right? It's like it's the best managed project that I've seen in the last 20 years at this magnitude. And for me, kind of cutting that just sent such a chilling message because Jamie is the manager. He's incredible. Like, I mean, I literally went and visited him just a few months ago, and it just, was attaboy. Like, I mean, together with his team, they did the incredible task of managing. I mean, there's no project that's managed better at this magnitude anywhere. I would argue anywhere in the federal government. How are we in a situation in which people don't understand the importance of the science program? If you look at NASA, in the time I was there, 8 out of 10 of the top stories by user engagement were science. Many people talk about astronauts, and I know you have some in your family, right? Kind of about the importance of them being inspirational. I believe that's really true and it's right. I just want to submit humbly that science has the same function and in many cases has had huge impact, kind of at the billions of engagements in stories. And so we're giving up the inspiration too.
Yeah, I mean, I may be biased in some ways, an inclination towards human spaceflight, but I am the first to admit that in many ways, it is the robotic and the unmanned spacecrafts that have given us our greatest insights into the inner workings of the universe. They can go farther and explore deeper into space than any humans ever could. But it is so fascinating that the Trump administration really sort of pitted NASA's human exploration side against the robotic and science side in a way that's always kind of been, in a very friendly sort of way, simmering beneath the surface. But now, I mean, human exploration is the only thing that has gotten any money in this budget.
Yeah, look, I mean, my whole tenure at NASA, I made a commitment to never attack human exploration. And the simple reason for that is human exploration without science is frankly some kind of job for actors and showy people. It's like climbing on a mountain.
It's the line at Mount Everest.
As an explorer, I want humans to be on Mars. But why would they go there the second time and the third time? It's to do science. And so for me, that's the critical part.
Thomas, a lot of people are bi-coastal. You are bi-continental. You split your time between the US and Switzerland. What's the vibe like in Europe? I mean, ESA, the European Space Agency, they're losing out quite a bit in NASA partnerships in this budget proposal as well.
Well, I think in many ways the reaction from Europe is very similar to the reaction to many parts of the United States, where people just are baffled. For Europe, it is true that there's something like a dozen projects that got cut. Like one of the things that I have seen lived is that the U.S. never saw a contradiction between leadership and collaboration, right? Because like whether it's in World War II, whether it's in some of the big, the first experiment on the surface of the moon was done by Switzerland, right? That Buzz Aldrin set up. Well, what this proposal does, it basically gets out of dozens of collaborations and of course leaves the Europeans in a lurch and just basically the question is what should happen? Of course, we all know this is a budget proposal. The budget proposal has never been the final budget in the history of the United States. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so can we actually trust the United States as a partner? So for me, those are hard questions that Japan is asking, that Italy, that's bilateral collaborations, but also the Europeans, and of course, what I try to tell everybody is the U.S. is a complicated country.
What is your level of concern that by breaking some of these partnerships with the United States and other countries, that it then pushes some of these other countries to cooperate more with China?
I think that's a deliberate risk that somebody's taking, and they basically feel that it's not a big deal. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. I think more importantly, the way I see it, if you looked at it from the European perspective, it's a time of opportunity. It has never been easier to hire top people. It has never been easier to basically go into a leadership vacuum that is being given, right? And so for me, my hope is we can partner again once the fever breaks in United States politics, which is just has been difficult to watch. Yeah.
There's a good chance this proposal is completely dead on arrival when it gets to Congress. But if large chunks of it do go through, are you worried that this is, the end of NASA as we know it?
It depends on the details, right? I want to just state again, there are good ideas in the bill and problems that needed to be solved, and they should be solved. Like, I mean, what I really want to be careful is that we're not forgetting that some of these missions just have been managed in a way that shouldn't be. Like that some of these programs should be questioned, right? For me, I just really don't want to lose that thought. But put that aside and you look at the kind of, as I said, baby with the bathwater type of thing. I really do think it sets the United States back from its leadership positions, and it will take a decade or more, to come back from it, because the most important thing we lose, frankly, is the talent. What stands behind a space mission is, of course, the technologies that you can read in books about, but it's the people who know how to build. The vast majority of the top people that work at NASA could be working for 2 to 3 times the salary that they have right now if they just snapped their finger and left. The ones that are really the geniuses that I've met day in and day out, that just, I mean, frankly, there's people there. They're some of the best engineers and scientists I've ever met, right? They can snap their finger and get another job. And for me, that's my worry. They will not come back. The talent loss is the biggest worry for me in all this.
And so you're saying, there is some good in this budget
Yep,
for NASA, some cost savings that needed to be made for
yep,
taxpayers,
yep,
but it's just the sledgehammer that's taken to
yep.
the whole NASA science directorate instead of going in on a project by project basis and saying this should stay, this should go.
I think the way you would like to do a budget, basically say, here's a budget. Let's make a decision for case by case what we want to achieve and what should happen. For example, you could argue that a number of missions that Earth science is doing could be done today with commercial spacecraft a lot more cheaply and faster. Missions should not take 7 years, they should take 3 years. That's the standard in the commercial community. Okay, so like if you said, look, there's a whole series of missions on to move that way. By the way, you'd get a lot of support by the NASA management. I know some of the people who have been talking about that. But you could go the other way, which has been done here, which is basically saying, okay, basically we want to save all the money we can. What do we absolutely need? And so you go the other way. And when you do that second approach, that kind of fiscal approach, kind of without reason and detailed discussion, what inadvertently happens is, I say again, it's the hand grenade on the table. It's not possible to make it a sensible budget that way.
For people that aren't as into the space world as we are, help them understand just exactly what is at stake for them.
There's a small mission in Earth science that's basically looking at the science of precipitation. Like if you're a skier, if you're looking at weather forecasts, it's super hard to predict when it's snowing, when it's raining. It's because we're missing a number of scientific processes and systems in there. There's an innovative mission based out of 3 spacecraft that have been built. It's 2/3 built that have been cut. So those, of course, are the weather forecasts of tomorrow that basically advanced this amazing victory of weather forecast, which came out of NASA and NOAA, kind of moving forward, saving hundreds, if not thousands of lives and creating productive lives here. So it's things like that. Landslides come down. I was just in Switzerland, and there's a whole town that got covered by a glacier that broke off, and a town that was there for 600 years. Some of the buildings are 600 years old. The entire town is wiped out because a glacier came down.
Yeah.
Nobody died except one person that went back and didn't obey the law there. Why is that? Because the space data provided the warning that this glacier is moving. The other ones in astrophysics are about questions such as, is there life out there? This is a question that has been keeping us up at night for centuries. We're solving this question now and we're giving up on that. It's basically say, not an important question we need to know next week. So therefore we can cancel all the missions. And for me, it's just like, think of your children, like,
Mm.
yes, we should do it in a physically sound way, but why give up for the first time in the history of the United States, give up on our future, on our hope to know better, know more, and to explore beyond our boundaries, which is what this really seems like when you look at it.
The day after this budget proposal came out, Trump announced that he was getting rid of his nominee to head NASA, Jared Isaacman, who has wide bipartisan support. Most people in the space industry support him. What did you think when you heard that news?
It was a really another punch in the gut, just because I just think the world of Jared. I worked with him when I was at NASA. He and I worked together on this idea of pushing the Hubble up, kind of away from its demise, kind of reorbiting. We had these ideas, something we ultimately, the NASA decided not to do. But the point is, I know him really well and I trust him. He's just cared for the agency as a whole, whether it's from aviation all the way to space exploration, all the way to Mars, and actually knows what he's talking about. So it's a shame. I don't know all the arguments for why that happened, of course, and it's not my point to say. At the end, the president needs to trust the people he puts in place. But I just feel bad for Jared, just because he's such a patriot and such a capable human.
And an innovative thinker. What
So,
he brought to you, the concept of a private space mission with private astronauts to do a spacewalk and fix one of NASA's crown jewels, the Hubble Space Telescope. That's a bold thought, a bold plan for him to bring that. When he first brought that to you, what did you think?
I thought it's like, tell me more. That's what usually my answer is. But and I'm intrigued, but I'm like, that seems impossible. We did a whole risk analysis with people from the
Yeah.
Hubble team and so forth. And we actually, the more we looked at it, the more we found is that it's possible. There's some things, there's an independent study afterwards that said some additional technologies need to be developed. I still think, you know, see the commercialization which has happened, whether it's in human exploration, but also commercial kind of robotic exploration. These tools we can deploy towards the benefit of science. And Jared understood and understands that. And I just value him deeply for that. And I hope as he goes back to his life, that he continues to lift that out, because he's really inspired so many, including me.
So you have the ouster of Isaacman, the budget proposal coming out all within 24 hours. Uh, I mean, those were two big hits for NASA. You still talk to folks within NASA. How would you describe the mood, the vibe inside NASA right now?
Well, I think, look, I mean, people are committed to doing the right thing. Like there's many people who make jokes about civil servants. 95% of the civil servants I've ever met are deeply caring, hardworking individuals who could be doing a job elsewhere. And it's those hardworking individuals you see here. Some of them are scared, some of them are concerned, some of them are really worried, but, they're doing this work often in silence, and without people watching them, kind of seeing them do almost miracles. They continue to do it, and my heart and my support is with them.
Do you have any thoughts on who should be the next NASA administrator?
Well, it would have to be a person that both has the trust of the president and his people, but also a deep understanding of the agency and the leadership capabilities to help it. So my hope is that person exists. I don't know what their name is, but my hope is that person exists, and my hope is that that person is in office really quickly, because we need somebody who speaks for NASA, which is not occurring at this moment in time.
Anything else you want to talk about before we go?
I'd just like to encourage people who listen to this to just keep their eye out on all these amazing results that continue to come out of the NASA science program. We just had a story that found the oldest galaxy with the James Webb Space Telescope. We have a series of new observations of exoplanets that are there. We have observations of complex chemistry in the samples brought back from Bennu. And I just really hope that people take this as an impetus to go read this science, but also communicate it to the people that sit next to them on the bus, on the train, or sit next to them in the bar, because I just really believe it's the NASA science is exciting, is useful, and is worthy to be talked about, and we should not in any way cease to do that and really commit to that and ask ourselves, how could we do a better job? That's what I'm asking myself. I think the fact that people think that it's disposable, a NASA science is disposable, means I did something wrong. And so I'd like to do better. So my hope is others kind of ask themselves that question and do that to recommit and learn.
I would imagine that you're selling NASA science pretty hard at a bar or a coffee shop. I bet you do a pretty good job of selling NASA's mission and in particular the science that they're doing.
Well, so do you, Kristin. Thanks so much for talking to me, and all best to you as well.
Thanks so much for coming on The Endless Void.